we're going to start in the blending area, and I'm going to pick a lighter color, and then I'm going to pick kind of a medium color. You don't have to pick the same ones that I pick as we go through this. You can if you want to. So I'm going to pick just a peach color, and I'm going to pick a medium blue color. Again, you don't have to match the same colors, okay? You can choose. Like you could do a yellow and a green, for example. It doesn't really matter, okay? So for blending, I'm gonna start with my lighter color, and when I use chalk, I wanna kind of use the top corner or find a corner that really hasn't been worked on so I can get kind of defined lines out. So all I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna take this lighter color and I'm just gonna kind of color it onto the page, just in that section. Okay, so I've got a little swatch of color there, starting with your lightest first. Then I'm going to do the same exact thing with my medium color, but I'm going to start by overlapping them a little bit and using kind of light pressure. And then as I move away, I'm going to use a little bit harder pressure with the chalk. And you guys can kind of see how that chalk dust like builds up on the paper. So when we do cleanup in chalk every day after these projects, we'll have to wipe down our tables with wet paper towels and then dry paper towels. I'm getting kind of low. There's only some in the further one dispenser. Okay, so now the part of blending is you're using your fingers to blend. So I'm going to take my index finger and I'm going to start in the lighter area. And I'm just going to kind of smooth that chalk into the paper. And without picking up my finger, I'm going to keep doing that as I move into my second color. Okay, so once you move into a darker color, if you need to go back and blend in the lighter areas, you have to use a different finger. Because if I were to take this and then start blending in my lighter area there, it's going to start laying down more blue than I want. So you got to be careful about that. This is going to be like your number one technique you're going to be using throughout this whole thing. Okay? Okay, for little strokes, I'm going to start with my lighter color first again. And again, I'm going to use kind of like a top corner. And I'm just going to start by drawing short lines that all kind of follow the same direction. And they're kind of spaced sporadically. Okay, kind of longer. I did some real short ones. Kind of a bit longer. Just a light color, doesn't matter. Just go light for your first one. Okay, then I'm going to do the same exact thing with my medium color. And I can let some of that blue overlap. Like I can draw right on top. Of some of those if I want. Okay. And then I'm going to pick up a third color. I'm going to pick up a green personally. It doesn't matter what color you guys can choose. And then I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm going to kind of use this to close the gaps in there. So I'm getting this kind of like mottled texture. Okay, so those of you that have like furry animals or like maybe a kiwi or a piece of fruit that has kind of like this furry-ish texture, this is kind of the technique that you may use for that. Okay. All right, so with feathering, it's kind of a combination of little strokes and blending just a little bit. So I need to get a color gradient. So I'm going to start with my light color here first, and then I'm going to move to a really light blue, then a medium blue, and then I'm going to use a dark blue, or I could use purple. I'm going to use purple. It doesn't matter. You can choose. You could even go like yellow, orange, or into red. So it doesn't matter, just as long as you've got a light, medium, and a dark, kind of starting with a neutral at top. So this could be gray too, or white if you wanted to do that. Okay, so feathering, we're kind of doing the same thing as little strokes. I'm going to go in the opposite direction, but I'm going to make these lines a little closer together and a little longer, kind of in a row. And then I want some of those to kind of go a little bit longer. So kind of coming down a little bit past that row. Then I'm going to move on to my next light color, and I'm going to do the same thing and kind of do a little bit of overlapping. So I'm going to let some of those blue lines go up into that neutral color, but for the most part, have them all be in a row, and then let some of them kind of go down past this row also. And now I'm just going to keep that up going with all my next two colors. So same thing. So you're trying to kind of get a coloring fade, like a color fade, while using the little stroke technique. So this is like another way that you could get blending. So the key to that is to have some of that color come up into the color previous. And then I'm going to use my last color here, my purple. Okay, now I'm going to leave this unblended for the most part, but you could lay this down and you can kind of keep this texture a little bit. But if I come over to this side and I kind of start blending from light to dark, you can kind of see that texture still in there a little bit, but then it's smoothed out just a touch. So I just did a little bit there to show you on what blending would look like there. Okay. Now I'm going to move on to side stroke. And is my speed okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to move on to side stroke. Sometimes this is a little difficult to get because you could grab a piece of chalk that's a little too compressed, which means that the chalk itself isn't soft, so you might have a little bit of trouble. So what you should be able to do is lay your piece of chalk down flat on one side and just run it on the paper, and you should get a nice, like, fairly even coat. Now, you don't have to go too hardcore with it, but this is a really great technique to fill up a large area of color quickly. Okay? That's good. You guys, you got it. That's good. Okay? So for layered side 1 and layered side 2, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to stick with this blue chalk here. And for layered side 1, I'm just going to let that, okay, going to kind of put that layer in first. And then I'm going to pick a different color and come on top of that blue and lay that color down. Not too much. I don't want to like overwork it. Okay, so I put my light blue down with my purple on top. Now for layered side 2, I'm just going to flip that order. So I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to put purple down first. And then I'm going to put the light blue on top. If I can, I wanted to go in a different direction, but I'll go in the same direction here. Okay. So out of these two, which layering technique can you see the purple better? Layer 1, right? And then in which technique can you see the blue better? The light blue, layer 2, okay? So what this is with chalk, you have a little more leeway on that. Light colors can go on top of dark colors. And as you are layering your colors through your project, you have to figure out what is the most underlying color. So you have to figure out what colors are going to go on the bottom and then what you have to work on top. So like in your shadows, a lot of those base colors are going to be like blues or purples or even browns. It just kind of depends. Like if you have a shadow in an object that's blue, you're going to have mostly like purples in there. If you have an object that's red, the shadows in there are going to be a lot of like browns and oranges, okay? So you have to figure out what's your underlying color and then go on top of that. Okay, we're going to move on to twist. And the twist is easier if you use a smaller piece of chalk. So if you've got a broken piece in there, that's good to use that. So it's kind of like side stroke, but you're literally just twisting the chalk on there. So then you can kind of see what texture and what kind of a shape that gives you. Okay. All right. You can try it with the bigger one. Got to kind of get it right in the middle, and you're going to kind of cover up when you do that. But you can kind of see what that does. Okay. Pointillism. Pretty much like little strokes up here. So we're going to kind of follow that same thing, and I'll use maybe the same colors I've been using for feathering. But for pointillism, we're actually doing dots. But I shouldn't hear any of this because that's going to break the chalk. You're going to shock it too much. So what you're going to do for pointillism is you're just going to real gently do just really, really short lines. Kind of like dots. So I shouldn't hear that tick, 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 tick. Because then you're going to ruin your chalk, and then it's going to get annoying to listen to also. Okay, you guys are doing a good job because I can't hear any of that. So I put down my light color first. Now I'm going in with my medium blue. I kind of want to fill up that space. More and more as I kind of work through. So this technique is going to be really good if any of you have any like flowers that you can see the middle part, depending on what kind of flower you have. Okay, and then I'm going to take my purple next. And I've got a really sharp corner for this, so it's making really little dots. So I'm going to just kind of start filling those in. So ideally, I would keep going until I couldn't see any of my pink paper anymore. So you guys can kind of look at what it would look like condensed and then kind of spread out. Okay, something like that. Okay, we're gonna do a quick practice sphere for the drawing part, and then we're gonna get into our kind of guided / individual work on here, okay? All right, so what you're gonna need for this is if you have white chalk, grab that out. If you don't have a white, there's a big community box on the cart here that you should be able to find it. And I'm gonna work in all blues, but again, that doesn't matter. So you need white if you have it, or the lightest color that you possibly have. And then I'm gonna work in blues again. So I'm gonna have that. I'm gonna have my light blue. I'm gonna have my medium blue. I'm going to have a dark blue, and I've got two choices, so I'm going to figure out which one I want here by kind of giving myself a swatch. Yeah, I want this one. And then I'm also going to use purple. So I basically have like 4 values. Technically 5 with the white. Okay. Let's scoot those over. Okay, so with my second to last darkest color, so if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, so not my darkest, I'm going to take this and I'm going to use the corner and I'm going to start drawing with you guys. Okay, so very lightly I'm going to draw a circle, just real light.
With what one?
Second to last darkest. Okay, so real light. And then I'm also going to draw in my cast shadow here. So I'm going to assume that my light source is coming in from up there. You don't have to draw that arrow unless you want to. Okay. Then I'm going to start using this blue to start filling in my shades. So we're just going to do a real easy sphere by just kind of differentiate between 3 different colors. So if my light source is up here in the upper left, where's the darkest part of my sphere going to be? The opposite. So bottom right. Okay. So down here, I'm kind of using the flat, small edge of my chalk. And I'm just going to start kind of laying this in here in kind of like a crescent moon shape. Second to last dark. So like,
What colors are you using?
I'm using light, like my lightest blue, a medium blue, the darkest blue I can find, and then my very last one's a purple. So for this one, I'm using my darkest blue that I can find. Okay. Yeah, real light. Yeah. Okay, so here I'm just kind of laying in a crescent moon-ish. And I'm just kind of laying it in real light for right now. And then I want it on the right-hand side, on that bottom right, I want to use a little bit harder pressure where I kind of lay a bit more chalk down in that area. I'm kind of really layering it heavy there. Okay. All right, so I'm going to set that one aside. Then I'm going to move on to my medium color. Medium. Okay, so I'm on to my medium color now. If you get mixed up, that's okay. Like if you get mixed up with your colors, it's all right. We'll get it figured out. Okay, so with my medium color, I want to start in my darker color. So I want to start with an overlap. But I'm going to do the same thing. Kind of start with that crescent moon shape. Kind of going closer to that top edge there. I'm going to fill in a little space here. Okay. Big one on that is make sure that it kind of goes down and overlaps into your darker color that you put down first. Okay? And I'm going to set that to the side. Is my speed okay still? Okay. Moving on to my lightest color. And then same thing. Gonna start in the color before it with some overlap. And I'm gonna kind of work my way up, leaving a bit of a space open for that white highlight. I'm kind of bringing this one down a little bit further to start getting some really good blending going on. Okay, then I'm going to set that one off to the side. Okay, last little space is for your white or the lightest color that you happen to have. And I'm just going to go ahead and use that to fill in that gap there. Again, make it come down and overlap into the color that was there before it. Okay. Now down here for my cast shadow, because I need it to be darker than my sphere, I'm going to go with that darkest color that I picked. So for me, it's going to be purple. And I'm going to layer some blue on top of it. So I'm going to grab this purple, my darkest color that I have. Excuse me. And fill that all in. Especially right up next to that sphere. Then just to kind of give this some variation and layer, I'm going to go on top of it with my blue. Kind of staying towards the outer edges. Excuse me. Of that to try to let it stay a little bit more purple next to the sphere. And then I could even add a little bit of medium out towards the edge. You don't have to do that though. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, now this is the hard part. You gotta find a clean finger because we have to. So for me, it's my pinky or maybe my thumb-ish. I have a little bit of lighter colors on my pointer finger, but so I'm gonna use my pinky. You're gonna feel a little weird, but we're gonna start in the lighter area first, and I'm gonna move my pinky in a circular motion, or kind of like crescent moon to start with, and I'm gonna start blending those lighter colors into the darker colors. Excuse me, I apologize. So I'm just going to kind of work this slow. My goal is to get it smoothed out to where I can't really see the pink paper coming through anymore. Okay, so you got to be careful about, like, once you get down to darker colors, if you kind of go back up, you're going to lose some of that lighter that you had in there. So that's why you need a clean finger. Might have to be a little ambidextrous and use your other hand. Okay, so basically you just want to get that smoothed out as much as possible. And then I'm going to work that cast shadow a little bit. Okay. All right. That's it for the technique. Okay, so we're going to, yeah, that's it for the technique page.